Our guest on This is America and the World is His Excellency Wendall K. Jones, Ambassador from the Bahamas to the United States. The ambassador is also non-resident ambassador to Colombia and Malaysia. Ambassador Jones is an award-winning journalist, author, broadcaster, publisher, and proprietor of Jones Communications. Mr. Ambassador, it's so great to be with you today.
Thank you very much. Nice to see you.
The Commonwealth of the Bahamas. What's that word mean, Commonwealth? Where does that fit in?
Well, the Bahamas is a nation of 700 islands and 2,000 keys. In the Bahamas, we call, other than New Providence, the rest of the islands are family islands. And so it is the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. It makes up the entire family of islands in the Bahamas.
It stretches over many, many miles, huh?
Yes, the Bahamas stretches 100,000 square miles.
Whoa.
And it runs northwest to southeast, just off the coast of Florida. And we are all the way up to in the area of Haiti. And so all of the islands in between the islands of the Bahamas.
So New Providence, that's the home of the capital, right?
The capital is Nassau, in New Providence.
And I've been there once before.
Okay.
Long time ago.
Very good.
Good people there, huh?
Yes, very hospitable.
What are the names of some of the other islands that people would kind of think about?
In the northern Bahamas, you have Grand Bahama, you have Abaco. In the northwest Bahamas, you have places like Eleuthera. Of course, we mentioned New Providence. Then we go further south. You get the Exuma Keys, San Salvador, Cat Island, Long Island. We go to Auckland's and Crooked Island, Mayaguana, and Anagua.
You got them all. When you mentioned San Salvador, all of a sudden in my mind, I thought Columbus.
Yes.
Huh?
That's right.
Did he land there?
Yes, he landed in 1492. He was in search of, that was the time when they thought that the world was flat. He was looking for the Americas, and of course he landed in the Bahamas in 1492, and on a place some Bahamians know as Watlings Island, but it's San Salvador, and there is actually a monument on San Salvador to mark the landing of the landfall of Christopher Columbus.
Population of the Bahamas. What's the population?
It is roughly 400,000 people. In the last census, it came in at about 399,000 people.
Now, I know that your Prime Minister Philip Davis, correct?
That's right, yes.
Is now celebrating with many, many people of high rank the coronation of King Charles III, huh?
Yes. Actually, as we speak, he is in London, attending a number of events, Commonwealth events, and he's there along with a very nice delegation from the Bahamas to attend the coronation.
I read something which I thought was rather nice, that he also invited to go with him the leader of the minority party. Huh?
The leader of the opposition.
Yeah.
He was there. The Prime Minister is magnanimous and open-minded like that.
That would be like Biden inviting McCarthy to join
Absolutely, absolutely.
The coronation is a big, big deal. What's the relationship between the Bahamas and England? Well,
we are a Commonwealth country. And of course, the King is the titular head of the Commonwealth of Nations. The Bahamas gained its independence from Britain in July of 1973. And ironically, it was Prince Charles, then Prince Charles, who presented the constitutional instruments to the government of the Bahamas, representing the Queen then on our first Independence Day. And so we were a colony of Britain, but now we are free and independent.
When you mentioned Commonwealth at the beginning, we were talking about the number of islands, but also there's a larger Commonwealth.
It's a Commonwealth of nations.
Yeah, of nations.
Yes.
Stretching from...
Well, all through Africa, the Caribbean, the African countries, even countries in the Pacific.
When I was reading about your Prime Minister, he and King Charles, now we have to say His Majesty King Charles,
yes.
And the Honorable Philip Brave Davis. What is the Brave? In the middle of his name, all of a sudden, it's Philip Brave Davis. What is the Brave?
His father actually, it was a nickname. His father was also called Brave. And so some people call him Brave Jr. And so his name, it's a name that he got from his father. His father's now deceased. And it is just a nickname. His middle name really is Edward. His name is Philip Edward Davis. But his friends called him through the years Philip Brave Davis.
And how long has he been Prime Minister?
He's only been Prime Minister going on 2 years.
Does he have a vision for the Bahamas that we should know about?
Absolutely. The vision for the Bahamas is to provide equal opportunities for all Bahamians, to grow the economy of the Bahamas so that Bahamians can remain in their country and develop the islands of the Bahamas. He has been a drum major in dealing with climate change issues and believes that we have the carbon sink in the Bahamas to enable us to grow the economy of the Bahamas while we deal with the level of damage that we get from the various hurricanes that pass through the Bahamas. We are in Hurricane Alley, as you probably know. Most of the storms coming off the coast of Africa, many of them end up passing through the Bahamas on the way to the United States, I might add.
Yes. Incredibly vulnerable, huh?
We are indeed vulnerable. We had a major hurricane in 2019, Hurricane Dorian, which decimated many of the islands in the northern Bahamas, Abaco in particular, as well as Grand Bahama. There was some damage in Andros, but the bulk of the damage we're talking about took place in Abaco. Some $3.4 billion in damage that we've had as a result of Hurricane Dorian.
You mentioned climate, and I went back to the Prime Minister and now the King have the simpatico. They're interested in climate change, climate and sustainability, huh?
That is an issue that the King has been dealing with prior to taking over from his mother. And he's been very concerned about what is happening environmentally, not only in his country, but around the world. Given what the damages wrought in the Bahamas as a result of hurricanes, particularly over the last 2 decades or so, it is only sensible that our government, led by our Prime Minister, would also take up that same issue.
Is there a celebration going on now in the Bahamas because of the coronation?
Well, there are a lot of people who are quite aware of what is going to happen in the United Kingdom, and Bahamians, like Americans, they follow what is happening in the monarchy. So there is some excitement on the part of some people, and I'm sure a lot of people would be up on Saturday morning very early to watch the coronation.
Let me ask you, if I can, you're a journalist, so I could ask this question. When Prince William was there, protests, huh? What was that all about?
Well, there wasn't any protest in the Bahamas.
No, when he did his Caribbean trip.
Yes. There were people in Jamaica who protested because of the whole issue of reparations as a result of slavery. Mm-hmm. And there are Jamaicans too who believe that that country ought to move to the next stage of its political development, that being a republic.
Mm. What's in the future for the Bahamas? Republic?
Well, we don't know. It is left to the Bahamian people to decide. These things are decided through referenda. And so there has to be a referendum on the issue of whether or not we are going to move to the next stage of our political development. There is an appetite among some people for that to happen. I don't know if it's the majority, but certainly some people are talking about it.
Let us take a little break, Ambassador. Tell the folks at home that I have the privilege of sitting and talking with Ambassador Wendall Jones. He is the ambassador from the Bahamas to the United States. Lots to talk about. He is a journalist by training background, a great entrepreneur of communications and journalism, not only in the Bahamas, but throughout the Caribbean and throughout the world. Sit tight, back on the other side. This is America and the World. This is America and the World is made possible by the Japan-America Society of Washington, D.C., 21st Century Citizenship, the Frank Islam and Debbie Dreisman Foundation, the Republic of Uzbekistan, the Sultanate of Oman, the Kingdom of Morocco, the Forerunner Foundation, the Rotondaro Family Trust, and the Embassy Series, uniting people through musical diplomacy. Mr. Ambassador, I often start our interviews. We got talking about the coronation and the new king and so on. Often I start the interviews by saying to the ambassador, tell us 3 things we should know about the Bahamas. What 3 things should we know?
The Bahamas is one of the wonderlands of the world. It is a beautiful country in azure waters, and it is made up of some of the most hospitable people in the world. And it is a country whose constitution is very well known by the citizenry, and they know that it is grounded in Christian principles and the rule of law.
Mm-hmm. The population, almost 400,000. What do the folks do there?
Well, the economy is driven by tourism. Mm-hmm. And so the vast majority of the people are working in tourism-related services. In addition to that, we have financial services, and a bit of agriculture and fisheries.
What percentage of the GDP, I guess we'd call it, is tourism?
Probably about 80%.
Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, wow. If you were our guide, and because people think of maybe the Bahamas, maybe they think of surf and sun and nice resorts. But if you were our guide, would you take us other places and show us around? What would you have us see or experience or do? Huh?
Well, the first thing I would tell you, as I just prior to this interview, I was having a conversation. There was a courtesy call on me by the ambassador from Botswana. And we made him to understand, as he now does, that the Bahamas is not New Providence. It is a number of islands, and so it's a diverse kind of industry that we have, tourism, because what you see in New Providence, the capital, is not necessarily what you would see in Exuma or in Long Island. For instance, you go to Long Island and you would see Dean's Blue Hole. And Dean's Blue Hole is one of the wonders of the world. You can go to Inagua and you can see flamingos. You can sail through the Exumas and you would see some of the best fishing grounds in the world, where you would see blue marlins and the pink snappers and all the rest of it. And so the Bahamas is not just the major hotels that you would see in New Providence, but it is a diverse experience that you can get by traveling many places in the Bahamas. Abaco, for instance, has been the boating capital of the Bahamas. Yachtsmen, they go into the Abacos, and you go to Hope Town and you see the red and white lighthouse, one of the most picturesque places in the Bahamas. And so if you want to visit the Bahamas, you can get a whole lot of fun. You can see many sights. And, people talk about going on a Mediterranean cruise. Well, you can do a Bahamian cruise.
Hitting the different islands.
Hitting the different islands, and every island would show you something that is totally different.
You mentioned Dean's Hole. What's that all about?
Well, it's a blue hole in the middle of Long Island. It's very deep. And so people from around the world go on diving expeditions in the blue hole of Long Island.
Oh, so it's like an area within the ocean?
Absolutely. Well, it connects to the ocean,
but it's within the island.
It's within the island.
So
itself.
That's a deep dive, huh?
A very deep dive. A very deep dive.
When you mention also, thank you for the tour of the islands. Are the ferries that running back and forth between them, or
we have ferries, fast ferries that going to some of the islands. You can go by boat or you can go by air. We have what is called a mail boat service in the Bahamas, and so you can get on one of the mail boats and you can travel to many of the islands, or you can take Bahamas Air, or even one of the charter planes and just go on a expedition.
You mentioned, in addition to the tourism, financial services. And when I'm doing my reading, I'm thinking of, so it's banking and financial services. Is it have to do with the attraction of the Bahamas, the tax structure and the privacy or secrecy, I guess some people would call it, that so many companies have invested or set up shop in the Bahamas? Can you help us understand that? It's kind of complex.
Well,
and it's sensitive maybe as well.
Well, we've had for a long time a very vibrant offshore banking sector in the Bahamas. and we've had very good banking laws in our country. And for a long time, if you owned a bank, say in Switzerland, or you were connected with one of the big banks in Switzerland, and you didn't have a branch in the Bahamas, you weren't saying much. And so most of the European banks had branches in the Bahamas because we had, at the time, a well-trained cadre of bankers. So they were involved in private banking and trust services. And so the regulations have changed since, because we have been pressured by the OECD and the European Union to change our laws, because the fact of the matter is that we have been keen competitors of some of the financial centers of the world. And so since 2000, a raft of legislation has been put in place, and the industry has changed a bit, and the Bahamas used to be known as a tax haven. We are not a tax haven. What we are is a well-regulated financial services sector, adhering to best practices around the world. And we have a number of banking products that people are taking advantage of using the Bahamas. And so I'm told that the industry is, while it declined as a result of the change in the legislation and pressure brought to bear by those organizations that I talked about. We are a very clean jurisdiction, and international investors and people of high moneyed interests, they find it very, very, very good.
So the pressure, in a way, has turned out positive, huh?
Yes, because it allowed us to get rid of some of the perceptions that people had of the financial services sector of the Bahamas.
Let's do a little jump shift and talk a little bit about the history of the Bahamas. And I'm thinking of something I read has been around for 200 million years or so, you know, the actual islands. When we say islands and keys, what's the difference? What's the difference?
Size.
Oh, just size?
Yes, yes.
So of the islands, of which there are 700, how many are inhabited?
That is an interesting question, and I'll tell you why. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and we normally say we have 29 or so inhabited islands. We have far more than 29 inhabited, but there are islands with very small number of people. And so you can go to an island that is 20 miles by 10 miles, and you would find probably 300-400 people. You can go to some of the little islands and you find 150 or less, as opposed to New Providence, the capital, where there is over 200,000 people. Andros, which is like the size of Trinidad, has between 8,000 and 9,000 people. All right, so you can see that the number varies, and so you can come to the Bahamas and you can buy a little island. All right,
Buy a little island.
That's right, and the next thing you know, you only have 2 or 3 people on the island.
What's an island going for nowadays?
Well, it depends. It depends on the amenities. It depends on where it is. So you can spend a few $1 million, or you can spend tens of millions of dollars. It depends on where it is.
I want to share with you some short pieces from interviews that I've done over the years. I call them reflections, and you can find them on the media platform Substack. They're filled with wisdom and inspiration and motivation. So search Dennis Holy on Substack.com. Enjoy and share. For information about This Is America and the World, visit our YouTube channel, This Is America TV. Visit our website, thisisamerica.net, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. This is America and the World is made possible by the Japan-America Society of Washington, D.C., 21st Century Citizenship, the Frank Islam and Debbie Dreisman Foundation, the Republic of Uzbekistan, the Sultanate of Oman, the Kingdom of Morocco, the Forerunner Foundation, the Rotondaro Family Trust, and the Embassy Series, uniting people through musical diplomacy.